I'm going to bring into the fray now Chris Daw, who's a barrister and author and justice on trial. And Chris, I believe, was on yesterday. Great to have you back on, Chris. Look, I mean, the update here really is what Mark Rowley has said, right? And I'm just wondering where you are at on this. So, in a nutshell, he's saying that we also had intelligence that people intended to vandalise monuments, throw paint at the procession, criminal damage on the route. He's also saying massive concerns about rape alarms for horses, etc., and that would mean that there would be a big issue for public safety and the risk of multiple serious injuries. He does, I think, tellingly also go on to say he basically wishes he could say more, but he can't. Has this swayed you at all? Because you were vehemently against the way the Met behaved, I think, when we spoke yesterday.
Yes, I was, and I still am, and I'm afraid it doesn't assuage my views or change my views in any way. Your reporter was right to identify that we have some of the most ludicrous legislation now in force that we've ever had in relation to public protests. It's actually an offence to lock on, and I'm reading the legislation now, Section 1 of the 2023 Public Order Act says it's an offence to attach yourself to another person, an object or land. I mean, when you have laws that stop you attaching yourself to another person and criminalise that behaviour and give the police the power of arrest, even if they suspect you might be going to attach yourself to another person, where's the right to protest left? What's left if you can't even attach yourself to another person as part of a protest? I mean, it's just ludicrous. But in terms of the police approach to the coronation, it's all very well sending someone around to say days after the coronation to a Republican protest group, we're sorry you couldn't join the protest. Well, when are they going to get another chance to protest the coronation? Never again, not for many, many years. And so it hardly makes up for the fact that this group, which is set up specifically to protest against the monarchy, was prevented from doing so on the very day that a coronation was taking place. An absolute outrage. And all of the stuff about worrying about intelligence, about rape alarms and horses, etc., that's great. I'm sure that some of that is true. And I'm sure that every single public protest, there are concerns or intelligence or phone calls made to the police to suggest that people will be violent or disruptive. The difference is you don't go around arresting random individuals where you have no intelligence that those individuals are going to commit an act of violence or an act of serious disruption.
The police would say, yeah, I get that, but the police would say to that, and indeed they are saying that right in the run-up to this, so forget about the initial interaction they'd had with Republic and all of that stuff, right in the run-up to this, the situation had changed. That is what Mark Rowley is saying right now, and they were getting significant intelligence about all of this. They would presumably argue, Chris, that some people have put themselves in a position, unfortunately, but maybe because of the fault of others, where they were around people that the police believed were going to cause the potential for serious damage to human life at the coronation, and therefore they acted, whilst it might have been unfortunate towards some individuals, for the greater good. And you don't think most people will be on board with that?
I hope not. I hope we're not on board with the idea that just because you happen to be near to some people, that there's some intelligence of some kind about, that you could be rounded up, arrested and taken to a police station, even if you've done nothing wrong, have no intention of doing anything wrong. What kind of country is that? It's not a free country. That's how they organise demonstrations. But
what do you want them to do just practically, though? It's very, very difficult, because you've got this crowd of people, it's all kicking off, say, you know that there's some people in there with rape alarms, as indeed they say they were, and tins of pain. They haven't got time to go through every single person, and before you know it, King Charles's carriage has been damaged, or one of the horses has trampled, poor old Dorothy from number 42 to death. I mean, what do you want them to do?
Well, what I want them to do is I want them to act proportionately and properly in response to the behaviour of individuals who there is reliable intelligence they're going to do something wrong, who are acting in a way which is obviously a risk to the public. If I, as Chris Daw, or you, or any of your other viewers are minding their own business, lawfully protesting, holding up a banner saying, "Not my king," or whatever they wanted to do, leave them alone. That's what a free country is all about.
And how do you respond then to the idea that another big part of our society here is, just democracy and the way that the laws are made and they're passed through parliament, etc. And when it comes to things like public order offences as well, they are largely voted on. And so, I mean, are you really saying then that you would like that overturned? I mean, our democratically elected politicians vote on this stuff, don't they?
Well, Parliament passed the Public Order Act, you're quite right, and the regulations were brought in and they were rushed through, as you know, 4 days before the coronation, to give the police these powers to arrest people for doing things which traditionally have been the right of every British person who wishes to protest against government policy. They've been taken away by this government, they've been taken away by this legislation, and absolutely you're right that in a sense that's democratic, if you believe that our democratic process is actually democratic when only 40% of the population vote for the government at any one time, but that's a whole different issue. Of course, Parliament passed this legislation. I'm saying they were wrong to do so, and I hope that the next government will get rid of it, because it's a sad state of affairs when you can't protest in Britain in a perfectly reasonable, proper and lawful way against the hereditary monarchy that millions and millions of people believe should have gone out in the dark.
I've got about 30 seconds, Chris. Do you blame the police more or the government more?
I blame the government more because they brought in the legislation. I feel sorry for the police having to deal with it so quickly, but nevertheless, they shouldn't have done what they did.
Chris, thank you. Chris Daw, barrister and author of Justice on Trial.